Good morning everyone. I am Stephen J. Lixanon from BSF1A. So, today I tackled about osgood-schramm model. So, let's start. What is osgood-schramm model? Osgood-schramm model is a communication is a cellular rather than linear. It involves a sender who encodes a message and a receiver who decodes it. It also experiences an idea of semantic barriers such as belief, values, or backgrounds that can change the way message is interpreted. So, who creates Osgood-Schramm model? Charles Egerton Osgood was a distinguished American psychologist who developed a techniques for measuring the connotative meaning of concept known as semantic differential. Osgood was born in Somerville, Massachusetts. He received his PhD in psychology from Yale University in 1945. He was a professor in psychology in the University of Illinois the Champaign-Urbana of 1949 and 1984 and a research professor of Institute of Communication Research (ICR), the UI College of Communication. He was director of ICR from 1957 to 1984. He was served as president of the American Psychological Association from 1962 to 1963. Why is the communication model represented in a cellular form? It is a cellular model so that communication is something cellular in nature. This model breaks the sender and receiver model. It seems communication in the practical way. It can happen within ourselves, the people. Each person acts as both sender and receiver, and hence use interpretation. As Osgood-Schramm model of communication is a cellular rather than linear experience that involves a sender who encodes a message and a recipient who decodes it. The sender and the receiver holds both rule in the model. This is why the idea of interpretation is the central of this model. Best example for this Osgood-Schramm model is talking to the phone. You haven't talked to your best friend in a while, so decided to call her with your drive home from work. You turn updating each other on your weekend. What is planned for the summer, and how members of your respective families are doing. When you hang up, you promise to chat again soon. Without knowing it, you engage in two-way system of communication popularized as the Osgood-Schramm model. As Osgood-Schramm model of communication is a cellular rather than linear experience that involves a sender who encodes a message and the receiver who encodes it. Before I end this topic, we sure that we understand what is encoding, decoding, and interpreting. So, encoding, we need to think of the right words to say and in what order we should send our messages to communicate our ideas to the message receiver. That is encoding. So, decoding, when we receive a message, we need to decode it. A message may be packaged as text, image, and advertisement, speech, and etc. When receiving a message, we need to use our reading skills, listening skills, etc. to decode the message, so it makes sense to us. Sometimes, someone may mishear or misread a message, perhaps if it were mumbled or written by someone who is not a native speaker, which will interface with their interpretation. So, interpreting. Now that we understand the medium of communication, we can go about you. One person may interpret the message in a totally different way to someone else, or they may not understand in the same way as encoder, meaning they have misinterpreted the text.